This is Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related, and today we're going to be taking a look at both of the Stadia Pro games for January. So let's begin by talking about Thumper. So in case you don't know, Thumper's a rhythm game that's actually received quite a bit of praise. In fact, it's sitting at an 86 on the Metacritic score. The game on average will take you about 7 to 7.5 hours to beat, but it's heavily dependent on your skill as a player. The game can certainly be extremely challenging at times, but that's when the fun really begins. See, Thumper isn't your typical rhythm game with high energy, happy music. In fact, the developers themselves describe it as rhythm violence. It's got a very dark atmosphere and sound to it. In fact, it can be very unsettling at times. But rather than explain it to you, how about we just give it a quick listen? As you can see, it's not the type of rhythm game that wants you to groove to the beat, it's more so one that wants to keep you on your toes. As you progress into the later levels of the game, these stages will become a lot more challenging. Not only that, but they will definitely start to pick up the pace. Now, I do honestly believe that this is a fantastic game, but sadly it's one that I've played through many times, so I don't see myself working my way through it again. Not only that, but if you happen to have a VR headset, I would highly recommend you go check this game out in VR, as that's where it's played best. Now, don't let that distract you from the fact that it's still a fantastic game even not in VR. And when it comes to the Stadia version of this game specifically, I was extremely impressed at how responsive the inputs were. I would go as far to say that the input delay on Thumper has to be the best out of any game I've played so far on the platform. That being said, I have also noticed something that I've never really experienced on any other version of the game, and I've played quite a few of them. I actually own Thumper on the PS4, my mobile phone, VR, and PC, but the Stadia version of the game seems to be the most forgiving by far. Seriously, I noticed that I was actually being quite slow on some of the turns, but I wasn't being punished or penalized for it. Had this been any other version of the game, I would have taken damage, so I'm kinda wondering if this was a safety net put in place for streaming in general. If you've also played Thumper on another platform, do let me know if you've been experiencing the same thing or if it's just made up in my head. I'm very curious to find out your impressions of it. Anyways, let's move on to the second Stadia Pro game for the month of January, and that's Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-Year Celebration Edition. This is another very well-reviewed game that's sitting at an 88 on Metacritic. Expect it to take you about 15.5 hours to beat, unless you're the completionist type, in which case it'll be more than double of that. Not to mention, it's the continuation of last month's Stadia Pro game, Tomb Raider. So my overall thoughts on this game is that it's quite an improvement over its predecessor. The gameplay has been much more refined and finely tuned, and they happen to fix the one big issue I had with its previous entry on Stadia. And we'll talk more about that in just a sec, but I do want to talk about the one con I have of this game, and it's the story mode. While it's not bad by any means, the previous title definitely had a more compelling story that drew you in. By no means is it bad or a reason to skip the entry, but I did think it was important to bring up. As for the Stadia experience itself, well, it runs flawlessly for me and I didn't run into any sort of issues. But this is the point where I want to bring up that one improvement they made on this game that made it a lot better for me than the previous title that was last month's Stadia Pro game. If you played that game, then you probably noticed just how annoying those QuickTime events were. Well, luckily that's not the case here anymore. Rise of the Tomb Raider has plenty of them, but they're much more manageable and they give you much more time to react. So if that was a reason for you to quit the previous title, well then go and check this one out, it's no longer an issue. So this game is flat out great and I highly recommend you play it, especially if you're a fan of the Uncharted series, go and check this one out, it'll be right up your alley. Overall, it's a solid title, but frankly speaking, I wouldn't be surprised to see Shadow of the Tomb Raider as next month's Stadia Pro game. After all, that game was just a part of the most recent Humble Choice bundle, so it is possible. Anyways, that wraps up this quick preview of January Stadia Pro games. Let me know what you think about them below. Are you satisfied with the lineup? And let me know below what you think next month's games are gonna be. Now, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out. And if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Now, for today's end of video message, I want to gather some feedback on this type of video. Let me know if you think it's useful at all, or if it's something you would actually enjoy watching, or would you rather prefer a more deep dive into each specific game and have them have a dedicated video each. I decided to opt out for more of a short format here, as I know you can just go and play these games yourself, but I did want to provide some important information like how long the game is and my current thoughts on how it runs on Stadia. Anyways, I'm looking forward to your feedback. This has been Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related. The Gen S community is over 3,200 strong and growing by the day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.